2024 was my first GenCon, and I came home pretty much penniless, or at least it felt like it. I bought a lot of stuff when I was there. I killed my budget. It's gone, like, forget about it. But there were tons of things that I had seen online at some point that when I saw them in person, I just couldn't pass up. And I want to take a moment to share with you some of my favorite things that I brought home. So let's hop over to the table. The first thing I want to share is all the Underdark minis. I just started a new campaign with a new group that is going to be a mashup of Night Below and Rise of the Drow. And I'm going to need lots of Underdark themed minis to make this work. And while I have plenty of Underdark themed minis already because, let's face it, it's the best setting, I also was able to pick up some really outstanding products while I was there, some of which I haven't even had the chance to open, but I'm really excited about this Epic Encounters set. Lots of minis, 16 in fact. The Palace of the Drow Queen. There's also another of these where you fight I think a giant drider, but I've never bought anything from this company before. We'll eventually do some kind of unboxing video with this product specifically, but 16 miniatures, a battle map, an adventure book, stats for all the miniatures. They are not pre-painted, which is kind of a drawback for me because I don't have time like I used to paint miniatures, but I might even dig the old Warhammer paints out of the closet for this thing. This is just really cool and I'm excited to get into it. Also in the Underdark minis category, we have from Arknight the flat plastic minis. Now I've seen these a bunch of times online and I'm not sure if I'm going to like them. I used to use Pathfinder pawns a lot and I really like that these don't have that like white background that you find on the little cardboard cutouts. These you can actually see through, but I got the underground version just because 62 minis for, I forget how much this was. I'll throw it up on the screen and post. But the artwork is really sweet. There's lots of cool pictures and things, character art that's in here. They look amazing. I just hope that they are sturdy enough. My only real concern about these is that I will tear them up. But the artwork is sweet. I love that you can see through them. Super cool and excited to have them out in the tabletop. Last but not least, as far as minis go, I also grabbed a bunch of these next level miniatures from their booth, and these are all really sweet. Not all of them are Underdark themed. There were a lot of them that I picked up just because they looked cool, but they did have some really sweet Underdark themed minis. Like, for example, this a lithid, which they can't call an elithid. I think they called it like a encephalopod or something like that. I don't know. I'm probably saying that wrong, even if I'm close. Lots of drow that I was able to pick up, although not all of them were labeled drow, but truly, if it's an elf, you paint it up right, you theme it right, and it's totally a drow. So lots of these cool miniatures here. Drow priestess. Pretty sweet. I think my favorite of the bunch though are actually the Lich, which is really cool, and these shadow figures. I love how these could be used for shadows or specters or I don't know, some kind of weird incorporeal foe of some sort. They just look cool. These are also injection molded. When I first came up I thought they might have been 3D printed, but they're legit injection molds, so that's a thing if you care about that kind of thing. But next level miniatures, I had never heard of them before this event, and I'm really impressed. Their prices are decent. I'm going to be on their website looking at some singles later on, and they've got some bundles and things too. Very cool company, very cool product. But I didn't just buy miniatures while I was there. I also grabbed a copy of Dungeon Crawl Classics, which is, I guess you'd say it's a classic. It's not a game that I intend to run anytime soon, but they had these on a big table for $10 a piece, and the sticker price you can see is $30. And with that kind of discount, I just could not pass this up. Even if I don't end up running this game, being able to mine this for ideas and steal some ideas, maybe use it for inspiration. I haven't had time to read this. at all, really. This is actually my first time flipping through, to be honest, except for the 2 or 3 seconds before I picked it up and bought it. But it really reminds me of like old school D&D, back when I was playing AD&D or 2nd edition back in those days. And I think that's kind of the point. And who knows, Bob seems to like this game a lot, and I respect his opinion as a gamer, so maybe this will make it to my tabletop eventually after all. Who knows? For now, I'm just excited to have another sweet book on my shelf that I can steal ideas from. Next up, we have the Tome of Beasts III. I really love the pocket editions just because they're a little more portable and friendly to being carried around, but they're also a little cheaper, so if you're money conscious, these will be a little easier on the wallet as well. Full disclosure, this is the only item that I'm talking about today that I actually didn't pay for. This was a perk for running games for Kobold Press. Many thanks to Kobold Press for giving me the opportunity to run games with y'all and showcase Tales of the Valiant. It has quickly become my favorite version of 5e, and my players are liking it too. In any case, I have yet to meet a Kobold Press monster book that I didn't like, and I haven't had a chance to go through all this yet, but what I have seen, I have not been disappointed. Looking forward to having the time to dig through this, and once I do have time to dig through it, I will definitely come back and do a top 5 favorite monsters from this book, just like I've done all the rest of their monster books up to this point. In any case, let's move on. We're moving on next to Valda's Spire of Secrets. This monstrosity of a book has me more excited about building characters than I've been in years. I'm a little grateful that I'm the forever GM, and I won't have to choose between all these options to figure out what class and auxiliary class and all that stuff that I want to play in the next campaign, because I don't know that I could choose one and stick to it. As a GM, I can build a lot of NPCs and things with these, and it'll be lots of fun. This book comes packed with different classes, with different subclasses for the core classes in 5e. It comes with new spells and magic items and auxiliary levels, which are really cool and remind me a lot of prestige classes. It's like a quick little multi-class that gives you some very thematic abilities to kind of round out your character, but it's not a 20 level dip, so to speak. There's never a 20 level dip anyway, but there's lots of cool things you can do with this. I used to say that if you're looking for extra character options, you should grab Tasha's Guide to Everything or Tome of Heroes from Kobold Press, but this is my new go-to, which is not to say that any of the other options are bad. I just am super impressed with how deep this book is. 10 new base classes, 152 new subclasses, weapons, spells, magic items, familiars. I mean, truly, Mage Hand Press killed it with this one. But stepping away from 5e for a moment, another cool thing that I picked up at GenCon that I didn't expect was the Cozy Companion. Snowbright Studio actually creates the Ink RPG, which is really interesting. I've never played it, but it sounds really cool. I ran into another GM who was working with Kobold Press who had done some games with this system, and this is not the RPG itself. This is a periodical that they put out every so often that has some cool additions. It's almost like their Dragon magazine. Some of the things are very mechanically inclined. They've got some mechanics for the game itself, but they also have lots of other interesting articles. I think my favorite at the moment is this pumpkin pudding recipe, which doesn't seem like it's in theme for this channel at the moment, but give me a couple weeks to put out some more content, and you may see this one come back in the very near future. I also have to highlight an interview with the guy who designed Boop, which happens to be my daughter's favorite board game at the moment, or at least one of them. That said, we're going to set this aside, and I'm going to say that my favorite thing that I picked up from GenCon, drumroll, is not the 2024 Player's Handbook. I was not lucky enough to get in the lottery system, or whatever you want to call it, for the 2024 Player's Handbook, but I did pick up a copy of Tales of the Valiant. And for a new spin on 5e, if you've been playing the 2014 version for a while and maybe you've seen some previews of the 2024 book, I'm in the camp that believes that the 2014 version of 5e certainly had its flaws, but Based on what I've seen of the 2024 version, they might have changed a little too much in the wrong areas. And if you think of the old Three Bears story, Goldilocks, kind of don't have a story without Goldilocks. Anyway, I feel like 2014 was not enough. I feel like 2024 might be too much. But Tales the Valiant hits a really solid middle ground of changing a lot of the things that I didn't like about 2014, changing just enough the system to make it feel new and fresh and give players a lot of really cool new options without adding so many levels of complexity that it becomes a little more, I don't know, just a little much. And I'm not going to critique the 2024 Player's Handbook. I haven't read through it. I have only seen previews, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. I just think based on the options that we have available right now, this is the version of 5e that I prefer to play. And if a player came to my table and really wanted to play a class or whatever from the 2024 book, then I would be okay with that. I think they can play side by side alongside these rules and be totally fine, at least based on what I've seen. Same for the 2014 handbook. Same for the player's classes in Valda's guide. No matter what class options a player brings to the table, this is the system that I'm going to be running behind the screen. So there we have it. Those are my faves.